Hello, Pakistan. I am Dr. Ari Tuckman, and I'm here to do a video where I'm going to talk about what makes ADHD ADHD. In other words, why do people with ADHD have certain kinds of struggles, right? More so than other people do, and yet, do great in other ways. So, ADHD can be kind of confusing sometimes. It can be hard to understand why someone can, do great on something one day and then really struggle to do it well the next day. So that inconsistency of performance, why do people with ADHD know the things to do, know it very well, but struggle to actually do those right things at the right times. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So let me go ahead and I'm going to share my screen, and we have some slides and it's going to be very exciting. So this presentation here, I call it ADHD is all about seeing time and feeling the future. And I'm going to talk about what both of those mean. So, first of all, I'd like to thank Kazim Trust, who asked me to do this video. We're going to be sharing it with you, and hopefully you share it with some other people, and we can really kind of get some good information out into the world about ADHD. So, Kazim Trust is a non-for-profit organization working to spread awareness about ADHD and learning disabilities in Pakistan since 2008. So that's been a long time. And the purpose of this series, of which my video is one part, is to empower the community and educate the masses regarding these neurodevelopmental disorders. I think that's really important because when you understand it, it makes much more sense. And when you understand it, you're in a much better position to know how to manage it well, whether it's for yourself, for your spouse, for your child, your student, client, patient, whoever it is. The mission of Kazim Trust is to build community in which children and adults with ADHD and learning difficulties possess the academic, social, and emotional skills to enable them to succeed in all spheres of their lives. I think that's really important too, because at least here in the States, there's this idea that ADHD is really about kids and it's really about school, as if that was true, if only that was true, right? ADHD doesn't stop at the end of the day when the school bell rings, and it doesn't stop when you finish your school, right? It comes with you wherever you go. So I think it's important to recognize that this goes way beyond just school and homework. So there's a very famous saying by, what I think is really kind of the world's expert on ADHD, Russell Barkley, who's done, 40 years worth of work. He's sort of retired recently, but he has this famous saying that ADHD is not a disorder of knowing what to do. It's a disorder of doing what you know. So in other words, it's a disorder of performance, of doing the right thing at the right time. And, I have a bit of an add-on to this saying, which is that, in fact, people with ADHD know far better what to do because they've been told far more often what they should do, right? Sit down, pay attention, where's your homework, put on your shoes, or if you're an adult, why didn't you call the bank? You were supposed to do that. Or, did you stop at the grocery store on the way home? Or all the things that people in life are expected to do. If you have ADHD, you know it well, you understand it, you probably have good intentions about doing it. The challenge is to take those intentions from your mind and to make them happen out in the world at the right time, in the right place, and maybe in the right way. So what we're going to talk about today is kind of why this is, right? What gets in the way between the knowing and the doing, or between the intentions and the actions. So the challenge for all of us, whether you're, 6 years old or 60 years old, is that there's this kind of constant tug of war that goes on within us, that, we have all sorts of different goals, things that are important in different ways for different reasons, maybe to different degrees. And, we want to do them all. We want to accomplish all of these things. And some of them are really important, so things like you should do your homework and you should eat vegetables and you should brush your teeth. And then some things are much more interesting than, doing your homework, eating vegetables and brushing your teeth. So, probably everything online is more interesting than brushing your teeth. I hate to say it to all the dentists out there, but it's true. Lots of things are more interesting, but they're not more important. And the problem then is that, sometimes when we do something that's not such a good idea, we feel the effect right away. So if you touch a hot stove, right, immediately ooh, that was a bad idea. Don't touch the stove when it's hot. Unfortunately, lots of things in life, it takes a really long time before the consequence shows up. So, for example, if, you're an adult, you need to, save paperwork and information to do your taxes at the end of the year. It could be a year later, right? If you submitted your taxes yesterday, it's 1 year from now that you need to save that receipt or do that planning so you can do your taxes again next year. Or if you eat a bunch of unhealthy food, I mean, you might feel terrible right now, right? Like, ugh, I ate too much. But probably it could be 10 years from now, 20, 30 years from now before your doctor says, oh, you have heart disease because you ate too much, unhealthy food. Or if you're a student not doing your homework, if you don't do your homework today, it could be a week until the teacher grades it, or it could be years from now before it has an effect on your ability to get into the next school that you would like to get into or get the job or whatever. So in a lot of ways, life takes too long to show up with the consequences, which means then that if life isn't bringing the consequence, we need to bring that from within our own mind. We need to remind ourselves, I should really, do my homework, or I should really brush my teeth. So when I go to the dentist in 9 months, I don't have any cavities or something. So this is then where this idea of seeing time comes in. Or as, Russell Barkley says, people with ADHD have future myopia. So myopia is just like a fancy word of saying kind of trouble seeing. So if you need glasses to see far away, you have myopia, right? It's hard to see things that are far away. In the same way, people with ADHD have trouble seeing time, right? They don't see the future. So if you're a student and it's Monday and you have a big paper due on Friday, there are some students who, and obviously the older you are, but there are some students on Monday who will see Friday and they'll say, oh, I've got this big paper. I should really start working on it today because I have some things today. And then tomorrow I have soccer practice. And then on Wednesday, I have a bunch of homework for history as well. So I can't do then. Thursday, I have some things, but I have some time, but I don't have enough to write a whole paper on Thursday, right? So some students can see farther into the future and they start to kind of think about it. Now, people with ADHD compared to other people of the same age, so a 10-year-old with ADHD versus a 10-year-old without, a 20-year-old with ADHD versus a 20-year-old without ADHD, right? They don't see as far into the future, which Barkley has kind of made, it's a little bit of a joke, but it's kind of true that for people with ADHD, there are like two times. There's now, meaning what's happening right now, what are the deadlines I'm working on right now? And then there's not now. And everything that isn't now falls into not now. So not now could be, if it's Monday, that thing due on Wednesday. It could be that thing due in 3 months. It could be that whole, 10 years from now. Everything else sort of falls into the not now. So because of this, people with ADHD have a much shorter, what's called time horizon, meaning they don't look as far into the future and start kind of thinking about it, right? So that 12-year-old who gets an assignment on Monday for the big thing due on Friday, they're really not thinking about it that much. So they'll procrastinate, they won't really do anything about it. And then the night before, now suddenly, it's a big thing and they need to sort of jump into action, which makes parents kind of crazy. Or if you're an adult, and you don't have a school paper maybe, but you might have a thing for work, or maybe you're having people to your house on Saturday. Your spouse might start thinking about that on, Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, about like, what are we going to serve? And do we have things that we need to clean up? And where are people going to sit? So they're thinking about it earlier, but the adult with ADHD, it may not be until Saturday that they start thinking about it. And it might then be too late. In addition to kind of seeing time and looking into the future, people with ADHD also kind of struggle to feel the future. And what that means is, so again, using this, it's Monday, something is due on Friday. Someone who doesn't have ADHD might sit there on Monday and say, "Ooh, I feel a bit of stress about that. Whoops, that I'm starting to worry about it. I don't want Thursday to be really stressful. I don't want to stay up late getting ready. I don't want to worry about what happens on Friday. I should probably start working on that now." By contrast, someone with ADHD, they don't feel that as much. They sort of know it, right? Because they've done this before, but they don't feel it in the same kind of a way of, oof, I should really start working on that now. And part of the reason why they don't feel Thursday night is because on Monday, what they really feel is Monday, right? What's happening right now? What's interesting? What's due tomorrow? What's the immediate situation? So because of that, they tend to then do the things that are happening right now, the stuff that's due right now, until all of a sudden Monday becomes Thursday eventually. And now Thursday is the crisis of the moment, or that deadline for Friday is the crisis of the moment. So one of the ways of putting this then, I sometimes say ADHD equals too much present and not enough future, right? That people with ADHD very much feel what's happening right now, right? So the stuff that's interesting is much more interesting. The stuff that's boring takes much more like willpower, much more like effort to make themselves do those boring things. And part of the reason why this is that people with ADHD have a harder time sort of saying, no, don't pay attention to that interesting thing right now. Instead, right, I'm going to push away. That's definitely more interesting. Looking at my social media right now is more interesting than working on a paper, that thing for work, folding laundry, right? Definitely more interesting, but that's not the important thing. What I need to do is push that away. And instead, I need to focus on that thing that's going to happen later, further into the future. People with ADHD have a harder time saying, no, not that. So they get pulled by whatever is more interesting or the situation of the moment, which makes it harder to focus out into the future. Or another way of putting it is, this is kind of, it's again half of a joke, but a lot of truth, is that the sort of unofficial slogan of ADHD time management is, by the time you feel it, it's too late, right? When it's Thursday night and you have a big paper due tomorrow, it's probably too late. When it's Saturday afternoon and you have company coming over in a few hours, it's too late to run to the grocery store because you realize you don't have something you need to cook dinner. Or when it's a day or two before taxes are due, it's too late to go back and figure out all the, receipts and the papers and everything that you need to do your taxes. So what do we do about it? Well, there's a bunch of stuff, right? If we understand that this is why people with ADHD do what they do, then we know a bit better how to address it, right? What are more effective ways of managing this? So to help people see time more effectively, we want to externalize it. In other words, don't rely on your internal sense of what time is it? How long have I been working on this? When do I need to leave? Make it external. So lots of clocks, for example, setting alarms that say it is now time to leave for that meeting, by having a to-do list, by using a calendar, by putting tasks into the calendar. So saying, oh, I've got that big thing on Friday. So here we go. I'm going to work from 1 to 3 on Tuesday, and on Wednesday night, I'm going to do it. And on Thursday, I'm going to do it here, right? So lots of other ways to make time more obvious and more tangible so they can really see that time. So a lot of good ADHD strategies do this, right? They make time more obvious and they make the sort of planning and coordination of time more obvious. Now, of course, seeing time is one thing, but then you got to actually do it, right? Knowing it is easy, doing it is hard. So what we want to do here then, and there's a whole bunch of other strategies, but to sort of maximize motivation by feeling the future more. So on Monday, thinking about how will I feel on Thursday? On Thursday, what is that like if I don't work on this now? Or what is Thursday like if I do start it now? How does that feel? How do I feel on Thursday? Right? How do I feel is a much better question to ask. If the question you ask yourself is, do I want to work on this? The answer is no. But the thing is, you don't want to work on it on Thursday either. You just don't have a choice on Thursday. So that's the wrong question to ask yourself. So, how do I feel about this now? How do I feel about this later? What are my options to really kind of bring that future more into the present? So here is my website, adultadhdbook.com. I've got a bunch of information there. Kazim has a bunch of information. My hope is that this, very short presentation was helpful to you in terms of kind of understanding what makes ADHD. So it's a bit less confusing, it's a bit less frustrating, and more importantly, that it helps you sort of come up with some strategies that are going to be more effective in terms of really managing ADHD well, so that you can live a good life, you can help your kid live a good life, or your spouse, or again, students, clients, patients. So information is really important, and I'm really glad to be a small part of spreading some good information here. So thank you very much, and check out the rest of the awesome videos.